Hello and welcome to the place where we highlight the talented, the interesting, and yes, the entertaining from our area. We are brought to you by, still believe it or not, by our great loyal sponsors like Empire Ford, Dusso and Zader, Layer Realty Partners, Aaron Pools and Spas, and Rose Homes Real Estate. Tonight, big show, chops. We have former radio personality and newspaper columnist and even author Pete Braley waiting in the wings. How about that, huh? Yeah. And of course, we also have the sidekick of the century who's actually in his car and on the road. Chops, what's up, Chops? How are you?
What's up, boy?
Talk about a loyal sidekick. Oh my God! We're not going to tell you where you're going, but he's about to have an argument with a mechanic. But you can stay live for that. Actually, that might help our ratings. Now, let's send our prayers to everyone. We want to send our prayers to everyone. We know we're all going through difficult times, but here we try to step away, do some light take on the headlines, try to have a few laughs here and there. We invite you to share. Click the like button, even if you have to force yourself to. We want to see the little heart. And put in your comments because we need that. Let us know where you're watching from. I see Tanya's watching. I see Joanne's watching. You see Pete Braley over there. I know a lot of his fans will be up there tonight. So let us know where you're watching from. And once I start doing my headlines, if you have like a better one-liner, just type it right in. We'll take a chance. All right, ready for the headlines, Chops?
Yeah, I'm ready.
The great city of Houston is having its annual event, Go Topless for Jeep Enthusiasts. It's coming up this weekend. It's a real event. I looked it up. Well, I heard a rumor. Due to the coronavirus, instead of sitting on the beach topless, they're going to have a parade, but to make it interesting, only on a street with speed bumps. I love the expression on Pete because Pete's definitely like a classier guy than I am. You know what I mean? That's not saying much, but apparently Chops too. They're actually testing out a new coronavirus vaccine on monkeys. It did have some success, so they gave it to humans. They weren't well except for the side effects. The humans are now climbing trees, grabbing their nuts, and eating bananas. Hey, Pete, you do like a monkey imitation? All right. Before you know it, Pete will be right down there with us. It'd be great. Well, here's another news story. I don't make these news stories up. These are the news stories that come into the Paul Santos newsroom here. Right. A man was running down the street with nothing on except a mask as his underwear. Somebody said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "Hey, I don't want to get corona or the kahunas."
We understand that one.
The Pete Braley fans, don't leave. We're going to stay 6 miles away from that guy, not 6 feet, 6 miles. Let's say hello to Doug Braley from Virginia Beach. I'm glad you're still there. My friend Lori Ann from Florida. Hello. Lisa's watching from New York. Rick Levy. Rick Levy from New York. All right. Oh, here's a good one. Here's some more cringeworthy comedy here. This is actually another true story. Of course. The wife of the mayor of an Illinois city was found violating the stay-at-home order. They caught her out drinking at a bar. Now, the good news is she tested negative for coronavirus. The bad news is she tested positive for some other stuff. but there are vaccines for the other stuff. Anyway, all right. One more. Here we go. Because it's been so quiet during the pandemic, goats have actually taken over the streets of a town in Wales. Now, one of the goats got so excited, they started their own YouTube channel just for goats. It's called Goats Gone Wild. All right. Enough of that. All right. Well,
Feet like that.
Well, coming up next week, we have singer Marlena Johnson, who, assuming isn't canceling after watching Tonight Show. And also, now she's going to be here. She's got a new project. She's going to be talking about it. The following week, we have Misty Nordstrom and Leon Monte. And also be on the lookout for the classic clip of the week. We've been throwing up these classic clips of the week. Okay, we have a great guest joining us right now. He hasn't X'd out. He's still there. He is a great radio personality. He is a newspaper columnist. He owns his own website, PeteBraley.com. He's an author. He's written a book. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pete Braley. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to put Chops. Let's see. We're going to look. Chops, don't worry. We're going to put you on the side over here. All right, Chops is on the side, but he's still available. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing great. Now, Chops can hear us. Let's talk about it.
No, he can hear us.
No, I'm doing
All right,
great.
we got a guy here, Norman St. Rock. He's a new listener. Okay, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. And my friend Bonnie. Bonnie loves the same kind of comedy I do.
There you go.
Because my wife said, who really likes that kind of comedy? And then our friend Bonnie went, oh, I love that guy. I'm like, oh, well, that's 1 out of 10.
There's one.
Yeah, I was thinking, somebody said, oh, that comedy is cringeworthy. I'm thinking, that could be my thing, cringeworthy comedy.
There you go.
But anyway, Pete is here, and I'm so glad you're here. We're gonna get a little more on board here. Here's the book that Pete wrote. I'm not done yet, by Pete Braley. And Pete, why did you decide to write this book? Why now? And how did you come up with this great title?
Well, that's a very good question. One of the reasons I came up with this, it was while I was rehabbing after my stroke, and my family looked at it as a way for me to, rehab, start thinking, a little occupational therapy, start thinking, write things down, try to organize it. And then my wife jokes around that I went ahead and did it. So then it was a case of, now what? I've got this. What do I do with it? So I think I told you when you and I talked recently that I had to do some research about, how does a book go from being in your computer to, yes, I have a copy too, to, being printed. So I did a little time taking some notes and Googling, and I spoke to a friend of mine, Christine Daniels, who is an art teacher and a Acushnet at the Ford Middle School, and she gave me some valuable insight. And once I got going, one of the other things I wanted to do with the book was to try to explain to the listeners where I had been all those times, because as I mentioned in the book, and as I mentioned the last time I was on the show with you, Paul, I mentioned that I had a disease called alkaptonuria. And I looked at the camera, I remember with you, and I looked at the camera and I said, don't worry, the book is coming soon. And
yeah, you did.
I was working on it at the time. So I wanted to explain to the listeners all of those times that I was away at NIH in Bethesda, Maryland, the National Institute of Health, and the times that I was broadcasting from home. Of course, everybody broadcasts from home now, but I did it, 10 years ago. Those times that I was broadcasting after shoulder surgery, knee surgery, whatever, I wanted to explain more why I was away, because I didn't know if everybody heard the story. Because as you know, with morning radio, you never really know what time people are listening. So did they hear the explanation, say at 6 or at 7:30? So I looked at this as a way to explain to folks what was going on. And actually, and another reason was, while I was writing for the Standard Times, I had a lot of people comment on my columns that it was helping them get through whatever they were rehabbing from after a heart attack or a stroke or other surgeries. They found it to be helpful. So, and people said, why don't you write a book? So I didn't set out to write a motivational, inspirational book, but I guess some of it comes off that way.
Well, having read it, I got to tell you, I read it. Partly because I know you, but partly because it's really good, and it is inspirational. And you have it broken down into different chapters and stuff like that, and it just kind of goes along, a very easy read. And there's a lot of parts of it that are emotional, and the different challenges. For people that don't know, you were cruising along pretty much the top of your career. Very experienced broadcaster in your 50s. You're working at WBSM, and they decided to, let you go after all those years. And, again, that was about a year and a half before the stroke, but, pretty shocking. And I imagine so tough to deal with at that time.
It was. I mean, I think anyone in the radio business knows that these replacements come along, you know, whether it's a ratings change or an ownership change. And it's part of life that you know, DJs and talk show hosts get laid off and they move around. I was blessed in the fact that I really haven't moved around that much in my career. I stayed 25 years at WBSM, which doesn't happen that often in this business. And the company just decided they wanted to go in a different direction, which they have a right to do. But it was very painful the way it all went down, and I do cover that in the book. And you asked me where the title of the book came from, and the interesting thing was when I was researching how do you publish a book and put out a book, one of the things I learned was the importance of that title. I mean, you know, you could name the book My Story, but if somebody sees that in the store and they just well, everybody's got a story, you know, what you're looking for a title that's going to grab someone's attention or at least make you think. So I went back over the book 2 or 3 times, reading it again, trying to get some idea of what title to give it. And I got some help from my kids, of course, and the idea came out. I'm not done yet, because I mean that's everybody's story, right? I'm not done. I'm 58 years old, but I'm not done yet.
Well, you know, Joanne Swords is on there saying, Pete, you are still missed. So you have your viewers out there. If anyone has a question,
miss it every day. I miss it every day.
I'm sure you do.
I don't miss the alarm clock going off at 4. I don't do that anymore unless I'm catching a plane or something. But I still dream of being on the air, and I miss it every day.
Well, if you have a question for Pete or a comment, just type it right in. Give us a like button. Hello to Richard Pouncey and Anthony Smith and Johnny Catavid and Joanne Soares. And again, we're talking to Pete Braley, wrote a book, I'm Not Done Yet. So you got let go by BSM, and then I know you were trying to scramble a little bit in terms of your career. You ended up writing a newspaper column at the Standard Times, and you even hooked on to another morning show down at Easy 99.1.
Yeah, good friend of mine, Scott Renish, is the program director down at Easy 99.1, and he and I were on the phone like right after I got laid off, and right after I got fired. And he didn't have anything at the time, but he was looking to maybe find a spot for me on the weekend or something. So I went down there and I did a couple of shows, and then the owner of WPLM kind of liked what she heard. So they were looking to beef up their morning show, bring in someone else to be a co-host with Kevin Cronin, who was the morning guy. So I ended up being that co-host, and Kevin and I worked together for a little over a year, and we had developed it takes a while to get comfortable with a partner, except for you and Chops, who melded right away. It's obvious by watching you guys. Yeah. It can take a little while to meld with a partner. And Kevin and I had just gotten comfortable with each other. And wouldn't you know it, it was, I think, a Thursday morning in February when I woke up to do the morning show. And 4 o'clock in the morning, I go downstairs to get ready for work. And all of a sudden, I got dizzy and my foot couldn't find the next step. And I remember texting him that morning saying that I don't think I'm going to be in today. And that was the beginning of the stroke. So yeah, after about a year and a half of being back on the radio in the morning and developing, a new following, enjoying some new listeners, I had that thrown in my way.
Yeah. And, I was wondering if you ever thought to yourself, and no one ever knows for sure, but, the stress of the job change and trying to find another job and, kind of sharpening your knives and learning to write, a newspaper column, and then now having to drive down to Plymouth and all that stress. I mean, do you think that did the doctors ever say, gee, sometimes when you go through those kind of things, that could have contributed to it?
Well, I'm sure stress is a big factor, a big reason for it. But I know the doctors in my case never really did find a reason for my stroke. So we don't know if it's related to the alkaptonuria, which is a disease that affects the major joints in your body. but it can also affect the heart. So we don't know if that had a, I hear a lot of could be, but no definite answer. But I'm sure the stress didn't help.
Being motivated to get better. This is talked about a lot in the book, and not to give it away, but one of the things is, your daughter's wedding was coming up, and you thought to yourself, wait a minute, I got to walk my daughter down the aisle. I haven't got time for this stroke. And the desire to say, you know what, come hell or high water, I'm going to walk my daughter down the aisle, and I don't care how much I have to work. I don't care how early I have to get up. I mean, you really zoned in on that thing. And it seems to me that just from looking at the book, that sort of motivation, kind of honing in on that one thing, keeping yourself focused, was really a factor in getting better.
Yeah, my wife, I don't remember this, but my wife tells me that when the doctor came in at St. Luke's to say, I'm sorry, sir, you've had a stroke, she says that I said, I don't have time for this. I have to walk my daughter down the aisle.
Yeah.
I remember saying that to the doctor, but my memory of those few days is kind of fuzzy. But yeah, I remember going to a Synergy in Fairhaven, and my physical therapist, Tim Peterson, I remember one of the things he said was, what do you want to accomplish with therapy? And I said, I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. And he said, I don't see why you can't do that, and you'll do it without your cane, which was a bold statement, I think, at that time. But yeah, we started going through all kinds of things because I had to relearn my balance. I had to relearn, I had to learn again how to walk, how to talk, how to write. And through a lot of hard work at Synergy, Tim Peterson, who I quote in the book about the things we went through, I was able to walk Sarah down the aisle. I mentioned in the book how I had a cane at the back of the church and I had a cane at the front of the church in case I needed it. But I made it through the service without needing it. And then I was able to dance with her that night at the reception, the father-daughter dance. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house, me included.
And we'll leave to the readers. You talk about that in the book and what song was being played and the lyrics of that song. And wow, very, very touching. But it must have been, a wonderful thing. How did you stay positive? I mean, I'm sure you had days where it was pretty depressing.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the book. There are days, especially at night, if you can't fall asleep, when you're there and your mind is wandering. I had my days of, why me? I can't do this anymore. But like you said, to have that one of the chapters is called "Have a Reason to Get Out of Bed." For a lot of us, that reason is because we have to pay the bills or to feed the family is our reason. But you've got to have a reason, something that motivates you to keep going. And sometimes it's very hard to find that. After I had achieved the goal of walking my daughter down the aisle, what was I going to do next? Fortunately, my son was getting married the next year. So we joked about how my goal was to walk him down the aisle. But didn't have to do that. But I had my son's wedding to look forward to. And then I guess, I just had one blessing after another because my daughter recently gave birth to our, what I understand will be the first of many with all of my kids. But I have my first grandson. In fact, that's why I'm talking to you from Virginia Beach.
Yeah, nice, huh?
Yeah, what happened was it was time for my daughter to go back to work after I think she had was it 5 months of maternity leave? And when it was time for her to go back to work, of course, they priced around the daycare coverage, and it's a lot more than when you and I had our kids. So they mentioned what the prices were for daycare, and then even before this was before Corona and all of this. But do you want an infant to be handed off to daycare? I mean, I know families have to do that, and God bless you, but I thought about it. I talked with my wife, and I said, I could do it because I really didn't have anything that I had to be in New Bedford for. I still work with New Bedford Cable Network, and I do some games for them, but I'm on a little bit of a hiatus from doing any. Look at that! I came down here and there's no more high school sports, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'm down here and I take care of my grandson and
Grandpa, Grampy. What do you call yourself? Grampy something?
Well, I looked it up, and a male nanny is called a manny. But since I know so many great jokes with, hey, Manny, I said, do I have to be called Manny? And my daughter decided that I was Gramp Nanny. So that's my job. I'm the Gramp Nanny, and I take care of Liam. But again, that schedule has been kind of up in the air with this coronavirus.
Yeah.
My son-in-law is in the Navy, and he's been cut back. His duty was cut back actually to like once a week. So I went from taking care of Liam 5 days a week to 1 day a week. But now they're ramping back up. He's working. It went from 3 days a week to 4, and now I'm back up to 5. I was seeing my wife and I have not split up. People were, they were being kind of careful around us because when I said I'd be coming here to take care of Liam, they were like, "Is everything okay?" And everything's fine. If we had the resources, Grammy would be right here next to me, I'm sure. But she is.
A lot of folks are saying hello to you tonight. Robin Montero, Elton Santos, Ian Duggan. We have Nemezia Correa. Listened to you for many years. God bless you and your family. Remember a part-timer by the name of Phil Girardi? Phil Girardi. He said, "Hey, Phil, what's going on?" Yeah, that's wow. That goes back about, let me see, 1980. So that'd be, wow, that's 40 years ago.
I know.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you.
I heard a version of, remember Take It Easy by the Eagles?
Yes.
All right, I heard a version of that today. And I told my son, that song came out in 1972. So, my God, is that how
48.
Yeah.
48 years.
48 years ago that song came out.
And you remember when it came out.
I played it on vinyl.
Exactly. So, thank you for your comments. Continue to comment there. And you want to say hello to Pete or let me see. Love your book, Pete. Says Andrea Protein Corey. And I miss hearing you in the morning. So there you go. I know you hear that all the time, and well deserved. So, you wrote the book, you bounced back from the stroke. I know it wasn't easy. The book is a lot about a reflection on life and the fact that you're not done yet. So, what's going to take you through, I look at my life in decades for some reason. My 20s was this, my 30s was that. Okay, we're going into our 60s now. So I want to make sure we get the most out of this as we can, assuming that we're around, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I think about that. I think of my 60s and I just go,
yeah, I know, exactly. Look at these old cranks over here. But you must have a few bucket list things still to go, right?
Well, Priscilla and I always wanted to tour the country and actually see a game in all the ballparks because we both love baseball.
Right.
So we always wanted to tour and see all the games in the ballparks. So I may go a little slower nowadays, but I'd still like to, maybe go out to Dodger Stadium, or something like that. I'd love to see something like that. I'm just having a ball down here with my grandson, and I'm amazed many times. I write about him. Well, actually, he writes the column every Tuesday on PeteBraley.com. I write a column called Raising Grampy, and it's through his eyes as he's raising me. But sometimes it's just so amazing to watch him as he discovers something new. I've got a wristwatch here. I think I bought at Walmart. But you can be fascinated by this watch for 15 minutes, wow. and to see him discover something new is just so much fun to watch. I don't know if I don't remember my kids doing that or if I was just so involved. I was always worrying about, I got to get here, got to get there, got to make sure
exactly.
that you didn't have time to step back and watch that. So as far, I'm not done yet. What's next? I don't know. I am working on a second book right now. It has to do with our little buddy Oscar, who passed away recently. So,
yeah, you lost a dog. That's not, that's no joke when you lose a pet.
Yeah, I had a blog on Wednesdays on my website called Woof Wednesday. And it was my oldest daughter, Sarah. It was her idea. She said to me, because we were talking about my blog one day.
Yeah.
And, what can I do to get new ideas? And she said, why don't you write a column through the eyes of Oscar? Because Oscar was one rascally beagle. In fact, I've had people, we have 2 dogs, or we had 2 dogs. And I've had people say that my other dog, Baxter, should keep writing the column, but Baxter doesn't do anything. He's a good boy. So Oscar was always, trying to get fudge off the table and trying to get, eating the English muffins before you could put them away on grocery day, So, but yeah, we had that column Woof Wednesday because of that cantankerous old beagle. And I had people suggest that I should take those columns and turn them into a book. So now I'm looking at how I can take that concept, not just republish the columns, but write around that, include them, and maybe make a second book about Oscar.
Hello to Elton Santos, Steve DeRossi watching tonight. Deborah Ford. We're talking to Pete Braley, well-known radio personality here in the area, and also a big-time author. And when you write a book, right? You write a book, and the book is successful. It's sort of like Jaws the movie. Like everybody always goes, "When's Jaws 2 coming out?" Right? So like you're like, I can do this. I got to write a sequel.
Thank you so much for the big-time author plug. I like that. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. When is Jaws 2 coming out? Something that's really stuck with me out of the book, and you brought it up again tonight, is having a reason, motivation. So I am kind of kicking around in my head whether or not I could do more with that concept of have a reason, because I'm a firm believer. You have to have a reason to get out of bed.
Right.
Because in some cases, whether it's a medical condition or whatever, for some people it's hard to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, and what we're going through now doesn't make it any easier either.
No. This is just incredible how this whole thing's been going on.
Yeah.
It affected the way we do things down here. My grandson only goes from one house to my son's house. Two of my kids, my 2 oldest children, are here in Virginia Beach. They live 5 miles away from each other. The other 2 are still up north. So it's kind of wild. I'm very blessed with the fact that my daughter and my son, their spouses and careers, they ended up 5 miles away from each other.
Yeah, that's nice. So then you go to visit, you're right there.
Yep, exactly.
All right, we got another person, Carrie Pereira. Miss you, Pete.
Let's Carrie. Thank you. Miss you too. Funny, I don't know if you ever faced this, Paul, because you and I have talked about how much we love the media, and you took your road. You went and got a real job.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The rest of us were, counting pennies and things. But there's part of me that really, misses covering this huge story. I mean, this is a worldwide, global story, and I'm just kind of on the couch watching TV like everyone else is, But down here in Virginia, things never got I wouldn't say things never got as bad as they did in Massachusetts, because I don't have the numbers handy, but the number of cases and the death toll has been climbing in Virginia. But we never had a mandatory lockdown here.
Right.
The governor never made it mandatory that you wear a mask. They suggested, but they never made it mandatory. But I was in Massachusetts last week. I hadn't seen my wife for 2 months. So my daughter and I decided to drive up with the baby to Massachusetts. We drove overnight, so the baby slept through the whole thing. The baby went to sleep in Virginia and woke up in Massachusetts, so it was great. But we traveled all night, and it was different this time to go into a rest stop and have to put your mask on and put your gloves on and go in, and they have all the food courts roped off, so you can't sit there. It was interesting.
All right, got a hello from Joan Daly. The book is great. Pete is a natural.
Thank you.
And Larry and Ann Oliveira saying hello tonight.
Yes. Hello there.
Another person who worked with us for many years back in the day
yeah.
radio. So yeah, it is great to see you doing well and everything going well. We talked about this off the air, but I did want to mention it. When I listened to morning radio, I was definitely a surfer. I listened to Pete one morning, then I listened to Dale Dorman another morning, and then I listened to, Romero, who's on now, and so forth, and the guy from Pro FM or whatever. But this one morning, it was September 11th, 2001. I had you on. And I left New Bedford. I was on my way to a doctor's appointment in Boston, and I was like, I think in Lakeville or Freetown or something like that. And you were the one who announced the first plane, which of course at first we thought it was some kind of an accident.
We did.
And then moments later you announced the second plane, and then it was like, oh my God, we're under attack. So moments like that, being in the media, being on the radio. I mean, is there anyone that matches that, or is that kind of like the most scary thing when you were on the radio?
I remember that day as being the day that I was most confused as to what was going on. And what I mean by that was this was before radio stations had TVs in the studio. We didn't have cell phones right next to us while we were doing the show. So all I had was a news wire. It was a computer that had a list of stories that came up. And that was how I got the news that the first plane went down, or the first plane went into the World Trade Center. And I thought it was maybe a Cessna where an older pilot had a health issue and flew into the building. But then when we found about that second plane, we realized this is real. And I can actually remember, I see this vivid in my mind. I can actually remember at the time we used to work with the studio door open a little bit. And I can remember killing my microphone, turning off the microphone, leaning towards that door and saying, somebody get me something now, because I had no information. And, you don't want to ad lib too much in a situation like that because you don't want to give any false information. So yeah, I remember that being a very frustrating day. And then just really trying to check in with different networks and trying to get something to talk about what was going on. And I also remember the unity the day after or a couple of days after, and how this country came together. I can remember we had remote broadcasts where we were handing out flags to people, and the patriotism. That was a great feeling. And
I wish we could get back to that.
Yes, it's been we seem to be so divided right now. And I know,
yeah,
I know on this show you like to get away from politics. I never really liked to go down that road when I was on the air. I always thought there were plenty of other shows on BSM and the networks where people could call in and argue about that. I tried to just, hey, here's the information.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because radio now is all one way or the other, mostly on the right side, but left side too, but it's definitely one way or the other. And it's hard to get a morning show that's down the middle, or you don't know what the person's politics are,
We used to position it as the Today Show on radio.
Yeah.
We were more of, we would report the news that we had, whether it come from, at the time we were the ABC network, at one time we were CBS, and we also had, Massachusetts news off the AP. Here's the news. What you think about it, well, it's early morning, so here's the news, digest it, and then talk about it later in the day.
Yeah. So the book right here is called I'm Not Done Yet, written by radio personality, newspaper columnist, former podcast announcer, author.
I don't do the podcast much anymore because there's just so many podcasts out there. I felt like I was getting lost. By the way, the book is available, shameless plug, the book is available through Amazon.com. If you just go on Amazon and search my name or I'm Not Done Yet, it'll come up, and it's available in paperback or also on audiobook on Kindle.
Absolutely. So is the next one going to be like I'm still not done yet, or I'm almost done, or I'm not quite done, or I'm trying not
huh? I'm not done yet. The next one could be not yet. Well, still going.
Almost done, but not quite. All right.
Wrap it up and say with one that says finally.
Yeah, that's it. He's almost done. He's pretty much done. All right, let's see. A lady here says New Bedford radio has never been the same since Pete Braley left. And our old friend Rick Levy says, how do I get a personalized copy? Well, you'll have to make some contact on the side.
Next time I get home,
looks like he wants an autograph.
I have friends who want an autograph. I don't. What do you write inside? You're supposed to write a message or something, or?
Yeah, I guess to you from Pete Braley. Say hello to the family. All right, well, Pete, thank you very much. I'm glad you're with us tonight. We're trying to have some fun over here. This is sort of one of my bucket list things, so we'll see what happens. We'll try to have a few laughs with it and promote the positive. And again, thank you very much for coming on. And maybe down the road when we get past all of this, we'd actually have you live and in person.
Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. All
hey, by the way,
right.
you have a request. What's a good song that you would like Chops to sing a little bit later?
What do I want to talk
I'm just thinking, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place.
I'm asking Pete for an idea. Like, and if you can't do it this week,
No,
maybe down the road.
I would like to hear what he just said. That reach out and touch. That is nice.
Oh, good way to get around. All right, very good. This guy wasn't born yesterday. I'll tell you that. All right, hey, yeah, thank you very much, Pete.
Hey, anything, any Four Tops, Bruce Springsteen, anything would be cool to hear.
Hey, Bruce.
All right, thank you. All right, that's Pete Braley. So you're still in the car?
Yeah, still in the car. We're still waiting for a car to get out of there, get on the lift.
I'm still in the lift. I think you ought to go in there and tell that guy, give him a piece of your mind.
We're waiting for it now.
Hey, we got a former Mayor Kalis watching today, so.
Oh, Mr. Frank Kalis, all right, my man.
Pass a little hello along to Pete and Chops and so forth. He probably came across this in his news feed and said, "What? Who's that guy and that other guy?" And well, I know Pete, so I'll stay with it. All right, what's that song that you want to do? You don't have to do it tonight, but you do some Four Tops, don't you? You do that.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
Ain't no mountain high enough and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
All right,
that was
you want to do the reach out and touch? Is that the one you want to do?
Yeah,
You can do it from the car. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I can do it. Yeah.
You can do it like on demand, like right from the car.
Right from the car, man. In the car.
You can do it in the home. You can do it in the car. You can do it anywhere. Started going downhill again. Pete's waiting in the wings over there. Okay. All right. You ready to go there, Chops?
I'm ready.
All right. Wait a minute. I'm going to be able to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, right here on our stage, Mr. Chops Turner.
All right. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. How about that? Hey, that was pretty good. That was pretty good, wasn't it? Yeah,
thanks, Pete.
That was real good.
Thank you, my man.
That was great. Just like right up, right off the top of your head. All right, so next week, ain't no woman like the one I got.
Oh yeah, ain't no woman like the one I got. Sugar pie, honey bun.
You want to go here?
Sugar pie, honey bun.
Yeah, go Pete.
You're not that guy that when I'm at karaoke, my wife has to like wrap a rope around me and say like, "Don't go up there," kind of thing.
I used to be, yeah. In fact, I don't think my wife ever
cut off the
karaoke place. It's probably why.
Well, Chops, let's see. What are we going to do next week? You going to have a song for us next week?
Oh, yeah, whatever you want, boy. I got you, man.
All right, let me see. I'm looking in the columns over here. Somebody wrote amen. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Anybody has a request or wants to hit the share or like button or the hello button, we'll pass that along to Chops. That way, next week we can. Thing if you didn't see it, somebody told me that their favorite song of the show was when I did that thing, Chops on the Side. I tried to do this.
Oh, yeah, you did it. Oh, you had the swagger.
Yeah, I tried to do the swagger with the Snoop Dogg, and I went Chops on the Side. Yeah, it was really a great, really great moment. All right, well, let's see. Somebody said, "Great job, Paul. Got some laughs. All the best to Pete Braley." And how about that, Chops? All right. All right.
Thank you.
I think our time is up. So we're going to be signing off. But thank Pete Braley for being a fantastic guest. We'll hope to have him on again. And to you, my
Pete. Nice to meet you, Pete.
Nice to see you. Thanks.
All right. Next week, we have our Marlena Johnson. She's about to release a new project. She is a fantastic singer. In 2 weeks, Misty Nordstrom used to be Mr. Bedford. I think was Mrs. Rhode Island and Miss something in Massachusetts or something like that. And by the way, Rick Levy's favorite song, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife.
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
What, Chops, you do that song? Do you do that song?
Yeah. I got to refresh my memory on that song. That's way back.
Yeah, it goes like, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife
you can be. Yeah, yeah.
Something, your real love is the sea. It's a real good like song for New Bedford, like a fishing song, All right, very good. All right. Going on a high note. Thanks again to Pete. We'll see Marlena Johnson next week.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Nice to meet you, Pete.
Leon Monte. Thank you very much, and have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.